Now, we have no time to go in further details, but there are some consequences from this. And one is that we should not allow, at any cost, and that's my first principle, still on that page on Origins, we should not allow ourselves to be pushed outside the church. We should not become a sect. We should not be on the fringes. We are the Catholic Church. We represent the true tradition. We have in us that sense of the faithful that has been carried through the ages and is faithful to Christ. Therefore, we should not either, on our side, make mistakes of doing things that would place us outside the church. I can't go into many details here. I've got a little more in my full text. I have to watch time, I'm sure. Well, thank you very much. But, you see, what I wanted to say is, I can't go into details, but I know there is a temptation because of this tremendous suffering of knowing you're called to the priesthood, and there is no way of implementing it because of the situation, of searching for ordination in other places. Now, it's quite one thing if people individually feel that their charism can be lived in another Christian community. I know many like this, and I'm happy for them and for the churches they join. But it should not be our policy as a movement, and certainly we should be very, very wary of having people ordained by outside bishops or rogue bishops. You see, our purpose is much larger than satisfying certain communities, their immediate needs, or certain individuals. Our aim is to liberate the whole church from this terrible mistake of excluding women, to give all women in the future a chance. Thanks be to God, we are the Catholic Church. You know, I was privileged to be in Rome during the First Vatican Council. I've seen the agony that went on, all the struggles, you know, people were suppressed and everything. But I also saw as a missionary in all parts of the world, as Vicar General I could travel all over, but also in India. What a wonderful thing that the council reforms were being go to Africa, see African liturgies. You can go to India, and they're so different. Papua New Guinea, they're so Catholic and yet so local. And how is that possible? Because we are one body of the church. I'm not saying that every part of the body will be prepared at the same time. But I'm saying, let us remember that our goal is large. And also, I would like to plead for, I'd like to plead to please remember that the priests and bishops and other people in the church who may not at this moment speak out in our favor, that they are members of our body. I have been privileged all my life until now. I have been teaching priests, a future priest. I have actually once counted, both in renewal courses and others, thousands of priests I have helped train. And in fact, quite a few now are bishops, I'm happy to say, in spite of my teaching them. But I also, and also as Vicar General, you know, I had this tremendous responsibility of having to go around and appoint priests and listen to their stories. I'm more aware, perhaps, than many other people of how weak and fragile we priests and we men priests, because we only have men priests so far, almost, how frail and human and broken we are. But I must give you this witness, that my constant experience with the vast majority is that they were sincere people, struggling, doing their best, many of them, that they had become priests for good reasons. I know a lot of things are being said about priests, but they are also a battered species nowadays. And we should remember that these are the people we should not write off either. They are the ones who actually will help us to transform the church. Many are actually on our side, but through circumstance, I come back to that, they're perhaps not speaking out. I'm pleading, please have patience, like Christ in the gospel said, you know, the man who owed something, have patience, don't write us off. We are still Christians, you know. I want to make also one exception with regard to ordination of women, which I overlooked. And that is, we have had this wonderful example of Bishop Felix Davidek in the Czech Republic. I think he is a wonderful man because during the communist regime, he actually ordained women after the local synod of his diocese and much reflection. I'd like us actually to give an applause to Bishop Davidek. And I think that this is the kind of thing that can happen in the church now. You see, if we have local church communities that responsibly act together, they may well be in advance of the whole body of the church. You know, before Vatican II, we already had local liturgies. I said Mass in Dutch before it was ratified by the Vatican Council at the time. And I was taking the place of my uncle, and when he came back from his holiday, you know, he found out that I'd been saying Mass in Dutch. And he was quite taken aback, although he's quite an open-minded man at the time. But I said, golly, I thought you were already doing it. You know? But then he took over and he started saying Mass. And it started because I had to give the sacraments to an old lady. And it was, the whole formula was in Latin. And no, she couldn't understand it, obviously. So I had this worry, do I give it in Latin and then translate, or can I not administer the last rite in Dutch? And so I phoned, you know, the chaplain of a local hospital. I said, in God's name, tell me, what do you do? He said, I do it in Dutch. I'm sure even in heaven they have some translators who understand Dutch. So, anyway,